here. I'm here today to do my March reading wrap up. I will be honest, I didn't read as many things as I wanted to this month, but that was all because most of the books, and I think 90% of the books that I read were over 300 pages or like close to 400, more than 400 pages. So they just were larger, which is good, and I mostly enjoyed everything that I read. I just didn't get to finish everything that I wanted to. So I'm going to wrap up everything that I read and listen to. And if any of these books corresponded with the various challenges that I'm doing, I will tell you about that. But the first book that I finished that I chatted about in my other book, in my wrap up last month was To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This book I think was probably one of my favorite books of the month. I really enjoyed it. I gave it like 4.5 stars. I found it really engaging. I love the world of it. I thought the world was so fascinating. I love the dual point of view of it. And I was just really captivated from page one. I thought the ending could have used a little bit of tightening up. That was the only criticism I had. But overall, I really loved it. I love both point of views. I thought the world building was standout in this, and I really, really loved it. So this was definitely one of the highlights of my month, but I really enjoyed it. And I do have a book review on my blog. But yeah, that's the first book that I finished in the month of March. Kingdom did correspond with the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge for a book set on the sea. So that corresponded to that challenge. So that's exciting. The next book that I read was from Entangled Teen. I was actually on a tour for that, so you should definitely go back and look at that post. But it is Lies That Bind, which is the sequel to Proof of Lies. And I really enjoyed it, but here's a picture. This book definitely upped the intensity. It's definitely a thriller, and it's definitely like a spy novel. Wouldn't call it a heist novel, but I would call it like a spy novel. And I really loved the dynamics of the group. It's definitely an ensemble group, but an ensemble like cast of characters. But there definitely is a lead, and Anastasia is such a fun character to read from. She's very, very kick butt and very, very stubborn and very, very determined. I wish I could be more like her, but I really liked book 2, and I'm really intrigued for book 3. I'm upset that we have to wait so long for it, but I really liked it, and I will definitely be checking out book 3. This author does have a lot of other books out from Entangled, so I might eventually check some of them out in the future, but overall, I'm really impressed with the series, and I gave this book 4 stars. Part of the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, and it's a country that interests you, and Rome and all the other places that were in this book really did interest me, so that corresponds to that. There might actually be another one for this throughout the year because I do have another book that I really do want to read that also has a country that super interests me, so this one might get doubled, but this is the book that I'm going to do for the moment. The next book I'm going to chat about is The Raspberry Danish Murder by Joanne Fuca. This is like the 23rd book in the Joanne Fuca series, the Hannah Swanson series. This was not my favorite. I only gave this book 3 stars. I really struggled with Hannah in this book. She was dealing with a lot of personal drama that really became almost the focus of the book. So that I definitely do not like. That was not something I really enjoyed, and I always have struggled with that part in these books because I think she can be a little bit reliant in almost some ways, and I don't always like that. But I thought the way that the mystery was presented was kind of unique and kind of different. Once I met the killer, I kind of knew who the killer was, but it was very late into the book when that happened. But overall, I did enjoy it. It was just fun. Like it wasn't my favorite in the series by far. The end is intriguing, so I'm excited to see the next book eventually. But yeah, so I gave it 3 stars. It was probably one of my more disappointing reads of the month, but now that I've read 23 books, I'm kind of in it for the long haul. The next book that I read was Daughter of a Burning City by Amanda Foody. I actually got this at BookCon last year and I actually met her and she signed it, which is cool. So I will definitely be keeping this book just because it's signed to me and I don't have anything else that she has signed. But it definitely was a disappointing read. I think I love the concept of it and I thought the world building and the magic system was really, really cool. But I really had a hard time becoming emotionally invested in the characters. And I felt like it was just like a surface level story where like something would happen and I would just really not feel invested. It was a murder mystery too, but because I didn't feel super connected to the characters, their deaths really didn't mean much to me. But I mostly read this because I wanted to read Ace of Shades, and I like to read books in publication order, even though they have nothing to do with each other. I will be reading Ace of Shades next month, so it was super important that I read this. It just was not my favorite, unfortunately, but I do have high hopes for Ace of Shades, and people have said that they definitely like Ace of Shades more, so I will definitely be doing that review the end of April, so keep an eye out for that. But this was just not my favorite read of the month, unfortunately. After I finished reading that, I also did finish listening to Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I was planning to go to the book signing that day that I finished reading it, but we had a massive snowstorm, so I didn't go to the book signing. But because Books of Wonder is so awesome, they still let Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff get a Bessel sign for me. I love the audiobook. I was so excited. I actually went out and got the third audiobook just so I could listen to it. And I'm actually going to read it and listen to it at the same exact time because I really like to physically see a book especially those books, the first time I read it, but the cast recording is just too special. So that was the first book that I finished listening to in the month of March. The next book that I finished reading was Letters to the Lost by Bridget Kimmerer. This is definitely a more emotionally gut-punching contemporary, almost like Katie McGarry, or yeah, definitely like in the vein of Katie McGarry, but it basically follows these two characters, and one character works at a cemetery, and he winds up encountering a letter that someone is leaving on a grave, and they wind up corresponding with each other. And it's like a case of mistaken identity, but they're all dealing with a lot of damage and baggage. But ultimately, it becomes possibly a romance story, and I really liked it. I gave it like 4.75 stars. I thought it was really well done. Was equally invested in both sides of the story. It was really engaging. There was like one or two things towards the end that I felt like was a little bit predictable, or like the direction that they were kind of leaning. I didn't love that. So, but overall, I really liked it, and I was really impressed by it. And you actually met Rev in this book, who's is the book I read next, More Than We Can Tell, which I'll chat about now. I love Rev. I love Rev when we met him in Letters to Us, and I loved him in More Than We Can Tell. I also loved him and Emma's dynamics because that's the lead. They actually again were dealing with really like emotionally things, and they kind of intersect. Their lives intersect, and they kind of wind up relying on each other. Um, Rev is dealing with a lot of stuff from his past, and Emma is a video game designer who was being bullied online, and their lives kind of intersect. Towards the end, there was one plot point that I could have done without again, so I gave it like 4.75 stars. But I really loved Rev as a character, and I loved Emma, so both of their stories were so interesting, and I was really intrigued by them. We also met a character named Matthew in this book as well, so I wonder if the next book we're going to get is going to be Matthew's book, because that would be great. But I really loved it, and I really love both books in the series, and I got More Than We Can Tell from NetGalley. So thank you, NetGalley, and Bloomsbury, because that was awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I will definitely be reading more by her in the future if she comes out with any more contemporary novels, and I really hope it's Matthew's book. The next book I received was also from Edelweiss, and I also got put on a tour for it, and it is Rubble with a Cupcake. It's a little bit of like Moxie, just also like a contemporary. It wasn't as romance focused as I was expecting, but it's basically about this girl who lives, I think they live in like Australia or somewhere in a foreign country, I think. And she winds up going to school on, it's dressed down day. They always wear uniforms, but she doesn't dress down. She's definitely more on the bigger side. But something happens and she slits her jeans, or she slits her stockings or something, and it kind of sends her on a weird path that she's going through. And I really liked it. It was a really fast-paced read. I just wanted like more about her, if that makes sense. I felt like she wasn't a super developed character, but I really did like what I got. And I like the lack of focus on romance. I think there was elements of it, but it definitely was not the focus. It was fun. I just wasn't my favorite read of the month, but I gave it like 3 stars. And if you like Moxie or books like that, I think you would enjoy it. It was just, I felt like I wanted a little bit more from the characterization of all the characters, but especially the lead. The next book that I read was the Owl Crate and Fairy Tale book for the month of February, and that is The Hazelwood by Melissa Alpert. I am going to be doing a mashup review of this and the Heart of Iron series, so make sure you keep a nose out for that. That should be out by the end of April. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a really interesting way to structure a retelling. I would definitely consider this like a more like an urban fantasy book because there is most of the book takes place like I would say the beginning and the end I would consider really urban fantasy, and the middle is when you get to experience the fantasy world. Normally, I love the fantasy world that you go to, but I really love the urban fantasy in this. And I was listening to a little bit of Karina and Corey from Owl Crate talk about it, and they said the same exact thing. I did like. I just. I sometimes I thought that the fairy tale world in this, the hinterland, went a little bit over my head, but I really did love the urban fantasy, and I love the relationship between Alice and Ellery, which was one of her grandma's fans. I love their relationship. I thought their relationship was super different and super unique. So I definitely preferred the urban fantasy of this rather than the fantasy world that we went. We are getting a book two, and we are getting an e-novella eventually of the collection of the stories that they talk about in here. So I really am curious to see what book two is because it felt like to me like it could even be a standalone. So if Baby Book 2 focuses on Ellery, I would actually love that. So I will definitely be checking out Book 2. But yeah, it just wasn't my favorite. I would say it's probably like a four-star read, or like a 3.5-star read. I did like it, I just didn't love it. The next book I read was Shadowrun by Ariana Strickland and Michael Miller. I got this a while ago. I got this like must be like at last Comic Con, like two Comic Cons ago. I got this. And it is a science fiction novel, and I will be on a tour for it in the book two, Shadow Call, at the beginning of March and April. So that will be my next read after the book I'm reading right now. Overall, I really loved it. I gave it like 4 stars. It basically follows two characters, Nev and Quell. And Nev just started as a cargo holder on someone's ship, but that's not his real identity. And Quell is someone who has, she basically has a power to harness something, but everyone is on the hunt for Quell, and Nev has to find her and bring her back to his kingdom so they can use that power to save their country. It was really, really fascinating. I loved it. There was a crew in this, and I really, really liked the crew. There's a really, really dynamic romance that was definitely a slow burn romance that I really liked. I'm definitely excited to see where Shadow Call goes. So I had to read this to read Shadow Call, but I really liked it, and it actually is signed to me, so I might actually wind up keeping this book. I don't know. It was really, really fun. I gave it like 4 stars. If you're looking for another crew-based science fiction novel, I would recommend this. Definitely wasn't my favorite one that I read, but I'm really am excited for the sequel and hoping that it increases the world building a little bit. So if you're looking for kind of an interesting science fiction novel, but yeah, definitely with a strong romance, I would definitely recommend you check this one out. I was in the city a bunch of days this week, and I just kind of tossed this book in my bag because I knew it was short. And I definitely am in a goal to read a lot of my BookCon books from last year before I go to BookCon. So I ended up reading Lumberjane's Unicorn Power by Marco Tamiani, illustrated by Brooke Allen. This is a novelization of it's a novelization version of the Lumberjane story. It definitely does not retell any of those stories, at least I don't think. But it was just super fun. I really liked it. I thought it was a super fun read. And I know that the second one's coming out. I don't read a lot of graphic novels or graphic comics. My co-blogger, Sarah, does. So there's going to be a bunch of those on my channel, on my blog this month. She reads a lot more than I do. But I definitely liked it. I thought that the friendship power was amazing. I thought that the use of like camping was so fun. I'm definitely giving this to a friend of a little girl that I watch at the gym because I think she'll like it, and it's definitely like fun. There's like illustrations in it, and at the end they kind of go over all the badges. I really liked it, and I will definitely be checking out book two. I might eventually consider checking out the comics because they alluded to some things about the comics in it. But yeah, I really liked it, and I was happy that I actually read it, and now this can go to my get rid of pile and make some more room for BookCon. To the Circle of Magic, Triss's book, and I'm like halfway done with it. So that's the audiobook that I'm listening to right now, and I literally just started reading The Dragon Heir by Cinda Williams Chima. This is the third book in the Heir series and the last book that I've actually read. I did not complete my anthology this month, Princesses Behaving Badly, because I just got a tad distracted. But I do hope to finish this. Hopefully, I want to get at least read 200 pages before Sunday, so this is going to be a massive undertaking because it's almost 500 pages. But this is the one book that I don't remember much about it, so I'm definitely excited to read it. And I will give you guys my thoughts. This review will be a little bit late. I'm hopeful that I can actually get it up like late next week. So keep an eye out for the review that's coming up for this. And then next month, I'm also going to move on to The Enchanted Air. I also have a giveaway going on right now on my YouTube channel for an Arc of the Glass Spare. You have to be subscribed to my booktube channel and my blog. I'm trying to reach 100 followers by just in general, so I can do a kind of bigger giveaway, and also by the summer I would love to reach 150 on everything because I'm going to do a massive giveaway for BookCon when I'm going to BookCon and Book Expo. I'm also doing a lot more consistent posting on my Instagram. I'm doing definitely one picture a day, and I've been following the Novel Bean Challenge. I'm really excited to see what April brings about. But yeah, this is super fun, and I hope you guys liked my wrap up. Let me know in the comments what book are you most excited to read, or what was your highlight read of the month. For me, it was definitely To Kill a Kingdom or More Than We Can Tell and Lies That Bind. I really love those books. And I'm really excited to see what I read in the month of April. I will admit that this book, my reading month will say there's some point just because I didn't read everything that I wanted, but you're never going to read everything that you wanted. But yeah, let me know in the comments what was your most exciting read of the month, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.